The issues are, well, they're complex. In North Dakota, obviously a very red, very conservative state. We've got issues that are playing out here that are so much different than what they're playing out in other parts of the country. When I think of Texas, I think of a conservative state as well. So you got to be bold. You got to be very bold to take on some issues there. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. Kendall Scudder is he's running for state representative in Texas. Kendall, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Joel. You were close. It's Scudder, but
Scudder.
It was, I answer to just about anything. I'm a Democrat from East Texas. I've been called it all.
Welcome to being a Heitkamp in North Dakota. You sometimes they remember the T, sometimes they don't. Tell us about the district that you're running to represent.
Well, the district that I'm actually running to represent is in East Dallas. It's going to be one of the most progressive districts in Dallas County. And so I'm running to hopefully be able to hold this seat and be able to hold down the fort for all of our progressive values that we're trying to stand on the front lines to protect here in Texas.
Well, I want to talk about that because progressive values, progressive ideas, this is at play right now. On a national scale. And one of the things that you have not been afraid to have a conversation about is Roe v. Wade and where that's playing out in the Supreme Court. It's best just to ask you, what is your position?
Oh, I mean, we should never infringe on a woman's right to make her own medical decisions with her doctor. I mean, it's outrageous that a bunch of politicians in Austin or in D.C. think that they should know better than someone's private medical professional that they have in their lives. So I'll fight to make sure that we uphold every ounce of Roe v. Wade that we possibly can. And it's constantly under attack here in Texas.
I want to talk about other states as well, though. The state that I'm in right now, every poll that I've ever seen in North Dakota shows that about a 60% clip, or maybe even a little more, I've seen polls where it's been as high as 65% of the people of North Dakota believe that abortion should be rare, but it should be legal. What does it show in Texas?
Oh, I mean, it's about the same. I think public opinion is on our side with this one. Well, I was nominated for the Senate back in 2018, and I ran in a district that was largely rural. It went into East Texas and had parts of Dallas County. And, we never wavered on this issue because public opinion is on our side. I regularly encounter Republicans, usually women, but just Republicans say, I don't understand why it's anybody's business. And we should keep our nose out of it. The way I see it, both sides want to reduce numbers of abortions. The question is, how do you do that? Republicans think that you do that through government overreach, and we think you do that through personal responsibility. You allow people to have access to contraception, you teach age-appropriate sex education, and you leave people's personal medical decisions between them and their doctor. Personal responsibility is the way that you handle this, not through government overreach.
You might have just answered my next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, which is, this is a fact. This is digging up numbers and just sheerly looking at them and saying, all right, why is it, do you believe, that abortions have always gone down under Democratic administrations?
Oh, well, because when you provide access to contraceptives and you teach age-appropriate sex education, you start giving people the tools they need to be able to prevent these. Preventative medicine is a discussion not in just the abortion discussion, but in the healthcare discussion writ large. As a society, we've got to start having discussions about how do we solve the roots of problems. No one's going out saying, oh, let's have a whole bunch of abortions today. That sounds fun. Everyone wants to be able to reduce this number because if you're having to have an abortion, clearly things haven't gone the way that you were planning for them to, right? So what do we put in place to try to handle this situation before it becomes a problem? Not attacking women when they're making the right decisions for them and their family and for their health.
Okay, so what do you say to those individuals who are looking at their TV right now and saying, okay, Joel, that's the facts. Abortions go down during Democratic administrations, but if you ban abortion, if you outlaw abortion, they're going to go down even more. What's your answer to them?
The only thing that you outlaw whenever you make abortion illegal is safe abortions. But abortions will still happen. We know that because that used to be the law. Abortions used to be illegal in this country, and it was a public health crisis. So all that you can do is make sure that you're empowering women to make the right decisions for them and their families with their doctor. No one is in a position where they're intentionally getting pregnant so that they can have a lot of abortions. This is something that people are making with a lot of solace. They are thinking about it. It is weighing heavily on their heart, and they're making the right choices. And I think it should be pointed out, too, that you and I are just two white dudes having a conversation about women's health care. Why aren't we listening to women when they're trying to tell us what's best for them and what's best for their health care decisions? We need to be electing people that are letting women be a part of this conversation.
And you're right about the two white dudes and two people that, quite frankly, can probably afford to fly someone to another state. The Supreme Court appears to be headed towards that states themselves can decide that in their state. Now, the problem obviously I have with that is it either should be legal or illegal. You either believe it's legal or illegal. You can't just sit there and make it so that, the very richest and wealthiest among us can fly to a blue state. There's a whole class of people out there, Kendall, that can't afford that. And can a case be made on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just criminalizing abortion for poor folks because wealthy folks are going to have the opportunity to do what they need to. And this may be the symptom of a problem the Democratic Party has writ large in the way that we message things. The conversation here, in my opinion, needs to be about being nice to folks and minding your own business, which seems to be what the Democratic Party stands for these days, whether it's the topic of abortion or trans rights or gay rights or a lot of these or immigration in these families. Just be nice to people and mind your own business. Let people make decisions with their own private doctor and do what's best for them and their family. If they're not hurting people, it's none of your business. And for some reason, we're not messaging that way, but I think that would resonate really well in places like North Dakota and places like Texas. We're just trying to get folks to be nice and mind their own business.
So let's go to the political side of this. And the politics of this, to me, are very dangerous for the GOP. And let me explain to you why I believe that. Because the GOP has been able to raise money and motivate people to vote on this single issue. I mean, that's been the reason that many people call themselves a Republican. Once they've won, or they've perceived to have won when it comes to this issue under this new Supreme Court, it seems to me that those individuals are likely to say, that one's won. That one's won. I don't need to donate money anymore. And yet there's a base when it comes to the other individuals, the other side of this issue, that will motivate again, that will get off their butt and say, wait a second, I just took for granted that Roe v. Wade was still going to be the law of the land. And so is this dangerous politically for the GOP?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about it from that perspective, but I think you're spot on. The pendulum swings, right? And if they make the decision to do this and they full-throatedly attack women's reproductive health care, there is going to be a strike back. And you're correct that people will feel like that issue is done. Republicans have a lot of single-issue voters in their party, people who don't really believe in a lot of what they're pushing, but they may be pro-life. And once this is no longer an issue, I wonder what's going to happen with a lot of those folks. But the reality is, like most issues the Republicans push, they're just doing it to keep a subsection of their electorate happy, not what the population writ large wants, because they're more interested in winning primaries than they are in making sure that things work out for the people of this country in their best interest. And so, regardless of what happens, my generation, I'm a millennial, and Gen Z, the generation right behind us, we're going to keep fighting on this issue. It is not a question of whether or not abortion will be accessible for women in the future. It's just a matter of when. Our generation will make sure that it happens. Hopefully, we will not have to wait for a bunch of boomers to get out of government for us to be able to do it.
Well, I'm a boomer, and there's and there's an assumption for a long time that this was never going to be at risk. If the court, this very ultra conservative Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, which quite frankly they're going to, if they do that, how many other different social issues, how many other different affirmative action issues like that do you think people are going to line up to overturn?
Oh, I mean, this is what everyone was terrified when they were spitting on RBG's grave during the Trump administration, right? This is a stolen Supreme Court that was taken away from duly elected Democrats. We had rights to appoint folks to this court when it was taken away from us. But I mean, that set aside, yes, it's going to be a waterfall. I mean, they are going to the dams will be open. It is going to rush through, and you're going to see bills like Texas that go even further than the Mississippi bill. That's going to start making it to the court. In Texas, they just passed a law that makes it legal for private civilians to file civil suits against anyone who assists in efforts to get abortion. So that's Uber drivers, that's doctors, that's anyone along that. That's you dropping your friend off at a clinic, and that's $10,000 a pop. If you could start doing that, we could start doing that on any issues that we don't like. And how do you have a system that upholds like that? But this court is going to push their ideological agenda down our throats until we become Gilead. And it's a really unfortunate reality that we're facing. And the only way to overcome it is to elect more Democrats to the Senate in 2022 and to continue to elect all Democrats up and down your ballot. There just aren't pro-choice Republicans anymore. They claim that they are, but the people who claim that they are folks like Susan Collins, who put these people on the court in the first place, that's starting this conversation. So the only way to get through this is to continue to elect Democrats up and down your ballot.
I got a tough one for you to end with that's an issue that I bring up to my daughters, who believe that Ruth Bader Ginsberg is one of their heroes, and they see her as an individual to be honored, and quite frankly, I do as well. But she was sick during the Obama administration. She came out of it. I get that. But should she have resigned from the court then? Should she have realized that the place she was, so that she didn't make it, so that the opportunity was going to present itself to President Trump to make that change?
Yeah, I mean, we're facing that problem right now with another Supreme Court justice, right? I mean, a really unfortunate reality is that some of these folks are existing in a world where we had decorum in American politics, and it just doesn't exist anymore. Republicans are not standing up to do the right thing. So where someone like RBG may have thought, well, surely they won't politicize these seats. Surely they will keep the integrity of our Supreme Court in place. That was very short-sighted, because you didn't see the Republican Party that existed right in front of you, and that has existed ever since Barack Obama was elected, and probably even before that. And so, yeah, it's a very sad reality that she should have, but I can't lay fault at her feet for existing in the reality that most of her life was in, you know, that we would respect the existence of the court.
Kendall, good luck in your race. I appreciate you giving us time.
Thank you, Joel. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for having the courage to bring your views forward. I really appreciate that.